Coming to you live from the Drew Estate and Gurkha Cigar Studios in the great state of New Hampshire. Welcome to the Spare Notes series with your hosts, Matt Tabacco, Pat Chamberlain, and William Cooper.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Spare Notes series. My name is Matt Tabacco from SmokingTobacco.com. I'm joined once again by...
Not Pat.
Not Pat. My beautiful wife, Nicole, and as always, from Indian Trail, North Carolina, part of the Cigar Media Hall of Fame, it is the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. William Cooper. William, how are we?
Doing well, doing well. It took you a while to remember your wife was next year. I mean,
No, it's not that.
I'm
It's
an afterthought, Coop.
all right, I know.
No, it's not that. I'm trying to do a couple of tweaks to the show here, and as well as my ventilation and my lighting is all on my phone. So it's all in here. So I was trying to adjust a few things, but anyway, we're here, having a great time. So one thing about being an electrician, there's people. You ever go into like people's houses and you see like cool electronic or like electrical related, like cool lighting and cool systems in the house. Now I'm not talking about like stereos. I mean like things that are like part of the house. And you're like, wow, that's cool. Well, the reason is most people can't afford to buy it and have it installed because it's we're expensive. But when that's your life, you can
do it. Yeah.
You just do stuff.
He says that, but I'm still waiting for an outlet in my bathroom
Yeah.
for my towel warmer.
Yeah.
So
Well, that one I need some help for, and I'm only one man, and nobody ever wants to help. So,
I'll help you run wire.
Yeah, well, let me know when you're ready. I've been
I'm
waiting
ready.
to do it.
Come on, Matt, get it done.
Yeah, that's right. Well, the thing is, I spend like 50 to 60 hours doing electrical work, all week, and then I come home and I'm like, oh, I'm done. That's the other thing. Is you come home, it's the last place you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway, we're here. We're live. We're having a great time. It's Saturday night.
Smoking some good cigars, hopefully.
Trying to. Sorry, I'm trying to get the feed. There we go. There it is. There we go. Everything is in order. What was I gonna say? Well, I'll let you guys kind of go first with what you're smoking. Coop, what do you? Sorry, my microphone's sounding a little off right now. I don't know what's going on here. Let me try to fix that. I sound weird. It's not crystal clear. I don't know why. It's a little better. Adjust my microphone. Coop, what are you smoking with us tonight?
Smoking the new size of the La Flor Dominicana Oro, the number 8, which is that 7x60 monster.
Ah.
So I want to have a nice long smoke. I also want to put, we'll get into. I want to put the cutter I'm using to a 60, which I hadn't done yet. So.
I know exactly which cutter you're talking about.
Yeah.
Boy.
Yep.
Nicole, what are you smoking over there?
So I'm smoking something that I don't think it was a limited edition. It's not in production, I think, anymore. It is the San Cristobal Ovation Decadence.
Oh, well, the encyclopedia over here will tell you everything you need to know about that cigar.
I
Go ahead.
believe it's.
Why are you putting him on
Go,
the
wait.
spot?
Let him do it.
I
Don't.
believe it is limited. She's correct.
Yeah.
And my understanding is they don't produce them all that often, but it's not a one and done.
Yeah, no, it originally came out in 2016. I think it was 3,000 boxes, or they do like a 3,000 box run at a time. It comes out of my father.
Great factory.
And it's Mexican San Andreas on the wrapper, and then Nicaraguan and binder and filler on it. And I loved it. I had this first, I think, like 4 or 5 years ago, and then I was told I couldn't get them anymore. I think I just like grabbed a handful of 5, like whatever shop. I think I got them at Kurt's and at Twins, and I bought the rest of them, but I haven't smoked them since. And I just saw them in my humidor. I'm like, oh man, like what's something that I haven't smoked in a while? So I've been sitting on these maybe close to 5 years now. too. And so I'm curious what it tastes like. And then as my backup, I actually grabbed. So it's funny because I'm just over 5 years smoking cigars now, and one of the first boxes I ever purchased was the Herrera Esteli. The Brazilian Maduro one, and so
Matafina.
the Matafina, and so it's this wrapper is really dark, or not the wrapper. The cello is like stained. I think I have like 4 left in this box.
Right.
So
That's it?
I figured, yeah, but we go through so many cigars. You know, some people power through boxes that they have, whatever. We have such a variety, and I like to try new things, right? So like sometimes I try to now stay away from boxes only because, you know, my time is limited chasing after toddlers smoking. So just sitting there powering through cigars is not something I can really do. And I always like to try new things so I can talk about like, well, what's new and what's this and what I like. And, so, you know, have some old ones just trying out today and seeing how they sat after 5 years.
Yeah,
So-
I really like that Ovation, by the way. I think it's one of
Yeah.
the best cigars made on the Nicaraguan side of Ashton.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, I don't know when I haven't seen a run of these in a while, though. Like I said, I don't think it's a one and done from what I remember talking.
I
to them about.
think
Yeah.
maybe 2 or 3 years ago, we talked to Andy Green at the trade show, and he said they might be bringing them back at some point. So they might be doing another run, but I don't think they've had a run in the past few years.
I don't think so
It-
either.
it's been a while, yeah. In fact, the
Yeah,
last time I
so-
saw them in a shop, I think they were at Twins, and I think Kurt just happened to have, like, because Kurt has a lot of, like, stuff he stores away, and I think he had happened to have some in storage,
Yeah.
and they were doing an Ashton event, so I think he put a box out.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, shit. And then, you know.
Because I hadn't seen him in a while, so I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna buy the last 5 that he had, because if I see him and I like him, but you know, so just did some humidor digging today.
Well,
just
it's
for
interesting.
fun.
I just did a Google because I wanted to see if Holtz had them. Holtz is sold out of them. That's so. What does that tell you? So there
Yeah.
probably hasn't been something in a while.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Mhm.
And I am
Yeah.
going to light up a Super A from Tobacco Queen, which we got this media sample set. I want to say it was early this year.
Yeah, they came earlier this year.
And I'll be honest, you know, we get a lot of stuff, as you know, and I'm sure people are aware of if you're not in the media. And sometimes, you know, you get things and you know, or you get like 4 different things in one day, and you unbox it all, you look at it, you put it away, you kind of forget about it. It's hard. It's not intentional. It's just when you're constantly getting stuff and then you're buying stuff, and some things, you know, they get put away. So this is one of those things that like put in the cabinet, tucked away. Other things came in, got stuck on top of it, and I was going through last night, and I found it, and I was like, I forgot we had this. I said, I got to crack this open, and I smoked one of the other sizes, and I was very intrigued by it, and so I figured tonight, since I have the time, I figured I would light up this Super A, which there was no measurement on there, so I'm guessing it's probably around at least 9 inches, and the A is usually what? Like 8 3/4 to 9 1/2.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it looks like it's at least around 9.
Yeah.
And so it's a little thinner ring gauge. A lot of times I notice an A, you know, super long, but it's usually around like 48. You know, like
Yeah. Where do you see those going into the 50s?
right. But this one, it almost looks like this is definitely thinner than a 48. This is probably like.
It is a 9 1/4 by 48.
It is a 48?
Yep.
Coops fact checking.
It looks thinner than a 48 though, which is weird.
Yeah, that's what
I was
have
gonna
on
say
the
like
website.
40. I was gonna say like 46. It looks a little thinner, but anyway, I have not smoked this. It was in there, in this set, which is a cool set. So I figured I would light this up tonight. And as always, we cut and light our cigars with none other than the best. We shake up the legacy here with ST Dupont products. And speaking of ST Dupont, we are featuring the new Fuente collection that just dropped. I'm going to use my 2024 accessory of the year, the ST Dupont Biggie Lighter with the flat flame. It's a 5-jet flat flame lighter. It is fantastic. You should buy one today. I know that many people who have heard us talk about this lighter on the show or read our website, they have come to me and said, hey, I heard about it, I bought it, I tried it, and I love this lighter. So definitely.
This is my first experience with the Biggie because I had the Slimmies last time around, which I love the Slimmy, and the Biggie is great. It's a great lighter. It holds a lot of fuel. It's precise. It's SG Dupont. You don't have to worry. No misfires.
I don't even know if I can get this on the ashtray.
Struggling over there.
That's about as far in as I can go. That should hold it for now. Until I get like another inch or two in, then it'll balance a little bit more. But
and the Biggie's great for like I said, I hadn't used these on a 60 yet, so this is the cut and the light was flawless on this. The light is covering a lot of surface area.
Yeah.
So, I just think like they knocked it out of the park with this design. They have the X's, the Opus X's, with each a different color representing a different Opus X line. I think you saw the whites of the Angel Share. I think you saw I got some Angel Shares this past weekend.
I did notice that. Very nice.
Yep,
very nice.
Yeah, I mean, when Angel Shares get in, I get them. I can't wait. I bought the last 10 too.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great blend. And sometimes I forget about it.
I usually get them.
Yeah, and sometimes I forget about them, but it's actually one of the blends that I wish we had more of in our collection.
Me too. They're expensive though. Box is gonna run you some serious coin.
I have a box. That is a box I have.
So my son-in-law, when he proposed to my daughter,
I know this story. I love this story.
Yeah. Yep.
He did.
And the catch is, I was in this studio, and it was actually Thanksgiving weekend 10 years ago.
Wow.
Almost 11 years ago now. And they were over for Thanksgiving dinner, and as he's leaving, my son-in-law Alex, who's my fourth son, I call him, he goes, "Hey, Mr. Cooper, I need to have a conversation with you. Are you going to be around tomorrow?" And I said, "Yeah." And I knew exactly what the conversation was going to be. Knew exactly what was happening, and I was going to give my blessing. But I made it hard for him. So we have a sales technique. When we used to bring in new sales reps, what we do is we turn the heat up to make him sweat. So I turned the heat up. He comes in. I say, "Hey, sit down. I got to go get something." Right? And I leave him for like 15 minutes. And he's sweating by the time I come back in here because this heat goes fast. And before he says anything, he hands me the box of Angel Share. I'm like, you made it very hard to say no at that point. But I felt bad. I did that. So, so that's what I did. That was very, I mean, listen, at his age, a box of Angel Shares even back then wasn't cheap, so.
So what you're saying is it's easy to bribe you with a box of cigars.
Coop can be bought. Coop's saying he can be bought, but you have to buy the right thing.
I was giving my blessing anyway, but I felt bad actually. It's funny. I was just with him in Florida a few weeks ago, Alex, and we were having cigars at the hotel, and he brought up the story. He goes, "You bastard!" I said. I go, "I did it." I said, "And here's some advice. You better do it someday." Is what I said. The same thing if you have a daughter. I made no apologies about it. But
that's what I would do.
When they got married, he gave me a box of the My Father 5-year anniversaries, which was very nice too.
Oh wow!
So yeah,
kid's got good taste.
He is a really good kid. So. Married 10 years. They just hit 10-year anniversary, and I don't have any grandchildren yet. So.
Get to it.
Coop, you gotta, a couple of years is. I was gonna say a couple of years is like all right, but you get to 10 years like all right. Like.
Yeah, I said yeah.
You know what?
I'm not putting any pressure. I said.
Let's go.
Well, here's a bigger problem. If you don't, I have 3 boys, right? They are nowhere close to getting married. Okay. So like right now, I'm not banking on them, or even close there's other ways, obviously they could, right? But there's nothing close in the pipeline on that end, as well to say.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think my dad really cared. I think he was like, "She can be your problem now." So bad.
I remember when I asked him. I went up to him. He was sitting at his desk, and your stepmother was sitting with him too, and they were on the computer. And they were both having a cigarette, and I was just like, "Hey, I gotta chat with you." And he's in his chair, and he just goes, "Okay," and I'm like, like just so like, and I mean nobody knows him, but like, you know, if you know him, it's like, "Okay." And I'm like, I got something I want to tell you. All right, man, what you got? And so then I like bring it up to him and I tell him, and he's like, yeah, okay. And then I go through my whole thing, and then he's like, well, you know, yeah, man. I mean, I think that's great. I think that's cool. I mean, you go for it, man. He's like, yeah. He's like, I don't got no complaints. You go for it, man. You do this thing. And I'm like, okay. And he was just like, yeah. And then, you know, we went back and forth, and then I don't know if it was that day or if it was like, you know, within the you know, a little bit of duration after. But I just remember he was just like, yeah, man, she's your problem now. And I'm like, oh, wow, thanks. That's wow. What a way to go.
That's what I did.
Although my mom did say the same thing to her once upon a time. So
yeah, Matthew's my problem now. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, he wasn't being a dick about it. That's just how he is. He's one of those people who like he gets very awkward in social situations, but he doesn't clam up. He just gets like really goofy, you know?
Yeah.
So he just says stuff and people are like, "What?" But that's what makes it. See, I find it funny, but like her, I mean, it's her dad, so it's like, you know. But I think it's funny, you know. You know, or your brother will be like, "Dad." Like, it's just
family dynamics on the right after Thanksgiving. I'm sure everyone had awkwardness.
Oh, believe me, there's a lot of things I could say, but I won't say publicly. You know, it's funny, but you know, I don't. You know, anyway, I don't want to get carried away. We had some fun. We had some great discoveries too, but that's neither here nor there. Let's see. Everyone's here. All the usual suspects are here.
And some new suspects. Welcome back again, Sean.
Yeah, Sean. It's nice to see you here. Thanks for joining us. Do people still ask permission for the father? I mean, I did 4 years ago. How long ago was that?
I mean, everyone I feel like I've talked to, like, who has gotten married anytime recently, yeah, they've still asked. It's still a thing.
Absolutely. And let me put it like this. With my daughter, he knew exactly what my son-in-law had to do. So I'm not going to say it was his idea, but she told him, you ain't going to get anywhere with my father. And I know she told him he'll say yes, but he wants to be asked.
You know, guys, don't
a respect thing.
You know, don't let Coop fool you. I mean, he's a fucking gangster, dude. Like, he don't fuck around. Like, if you don't really know him, like, don't let the nice innocent laughter and the fun upbeat on the show. No, Coop will tear you down, dude. Like, don't fuck with him.
He showed up in my house with, like, the second or third time with a hat on. Oh boy.
Oh man.
Lucky my daughter, like, before I was gonna like blow my stack, got the hat off him.
It's about respect. That's part of it, right?
It's about respect.
Yeah.
It's about respect. I wasn't going to deny him. I was never going to deny him.
Yeah.
He was a good kid.
But in a world where I feel like, you know, some traditions are dying, I hope that one stays around.
There are circumstances sometimes where you can't do it, and I understand that.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
There's there's some unique situations and family dynamics where, like, maybe it doesn't make sense. But for the most part, if you're able to, you know.
So what's interesting in the comments section, we have a few. So Jay Davis said, I asked my future father-in-law before I proposed. Matt Ty said, I did not ask permission.
I'm sure there was a good reason.
And Stace said, Jay Davis, same. I assume he's saying he did the same thing.
He did,
So that's 3. But if anybody else is married out there and you want to chime in, let us know so we can get a tally on who asked and who didn't.
Yeah.
It's 2-1.
Yeah, now, there wasn't really a proposal with my wife, right? We just kind of jointly decided we were going to get married. And then I remember my father said, hey, you going to talk to Lisa's father? I'm like, no. And I'm like, he's like, you better, is what his words were. He's like, you better. You showed the right. He said, that's not going to be the right way to get. And he started giving me that. And he was right. And then I remember when my sister was a lot younger than me, when her husband asked, he went to my dad as well. My dad was going to give the permission. But he wanted that to happen.
Matt Ty said there was a very good reason. That's all I have to say about that.
There's sometimes that's why I caveated. I do know there's sometimes circumstances where you can't do it, and that's everyone's personal business. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in general, if the procedure, you do it.
Yes. I agree with that.
Well, like Nicole said, hopefully some traditions don't die. In a world where traditions, we've seen a lot of things die. I hope that's not one of them.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, because if I'm not asked someday, people are going to know. People are going to know. And if people follow me regularly enough and they know how I am, you're going to know. You're going to know if I don't get asked. That person better ask.
Yeah.
So,
I thought it was a valid actually, I thought it was a very valid question that people still ask. And I think the answer is the majority I do see still do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One thing about smoking an A, sometimes it's because of the length on there.
I have to give this a lot of girth to this 7x60.
Same there, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of girth on here, but
Matt Ty, and that proposal was on December 10th, 1996. That was it, Matt. I don't want to make you feel old, but that was a day before my 3rd birthday. Just saying.
That was 3 days after my oldest son's 1-year birthday.
Yeah. I was December 11th, 93. Just throwing that out there. Yeah. Oh, man. Oh, Mike's still in Hawaii. Last day in Hawaii. Back to snowy Chicago tomorrow night. Yeah.
We're jealous, Mike. Have a safe trip home, though.
I mean, I'm not jealous about the trip back to Chicago.
Yeah.
But
jealous. He's there for one
I'm
more
jealous
day.
you're in Hawaii. Sounds like a great... How long were you there? Sounds like a great time. My oldest daughter's husband asked me, Jay Davis, and I didn't turn the heat on. Well, that was your...
well, now you know.
That was your...
What a rookie move, Jay.
By the way, anyone who's got daughter, that's a best Matt, you should put that in your archive to remember that.
Wait, say that again?
Remember, when the day comes for you, turn the heat up.
Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding me? There's a series of things that'll happen.
My husband would not be caught dead turning the heat up because this is already a whole point of contention in our household.
Well,
if anything,
my wife said, you did that. You never turn the heat up.
if anything, I might freeze the room out because I run so hot. I might just make it super friggin' cold in here.
In the garage studio, I have a separate unit, heating and air conditioning unit. That's why I could do it. I didn't have the rest of the house didn't get affected when I did that. So.
Because Coop's the thinker. I told you, Coop's not stupid.
Yeah.
Don't let him fool you.
Let me tell you, it's a very effective technique we used in sales, though, for sales presentations. So, and we gives people a chance to sweat a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a good tactic.
Yeah.
It's a good tactic.
Yep.
I will definitely remember that. 100%. Because I'm not like, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna put you through the test. Believe me. It's not. You're gonna earn it with me. Oh man, I like seeing all these stories. People coming in here. Jay's got one. I proposed in May of '92.
Pre-Matthew Tobacco.
Yeah. 1992. Pre-MT or PMT. Pre-Matthew Tobacco. You know what I mean? I like that. Like before Christ.
Not pre-Nicole.
No. Actually, that was pre-Nicole because you were July. You were July '92.
Yes. Yeah, but not when he was married.
Oh, okay, yeah, the second part of that. I proposed in May 1992. Don't remember the date, and I was married in August 1992. Pre-Matthew Tobacco. That's right. It was before me.
Yeah. I'll just say this: my oldest daughter is older than both of you.
Your oldest is older than both of us.
Yeah, and my daughter was a '92 birthday.
Wow.
92 was a good year.
February, yep.
The 90s were a great time, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
This cigar is really good, by the way. with like the 5 years of age on it.
Listen,
It
I
was
think that's one of the
already
best
really
cigars
good.
Ashton's, that's one of the best cigars they've done on the Nicaraguan side, Ashton. It's really good.
I know, but for being like the San Andreas like wrapper on it, like it is so the age on it has made it so smooth.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that cigar has been
so-
sitting.
Yeah.
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 It is so mellow for what it should be, in a good way.
Look at these comments. It's
I know.
20 degrees here and snowing. Well, you live in Minnesota. I mean,
It's warm.
Expected.
It's a warm
yeah, that's
It's a
warm.
warm balmy.
That's a heat wave. In Minnesota, almost December. That's a heat wave. That sucks. Sean, I have two daughters. The first son-in-law got off easy. The one that asked my baby is in for it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I believe that, Sean. Trust me, I hear that. I'm not there yet, but I'm right next to you. I have a 31-year-old daughter before my marriage. 31. I'm going to be 32 in a couple weeks. So, yeah, we're right around the same age. Yeah, Matt, you could be my dad. That's interesting. Although, if you know Matt, and you've ever met him in person,
He looks so good for his age.
dude,
He looks-
I like
like
you would
38,
you'd be like, is that your older brother? And I'd be like, no, it's my dad. What? Be like, yeah, dude, he looks great. He looks great. He don't. I know he said, well, I don't feel great, but he looks great. I mean, he's dude. I always tell him, like, whatever you're doing, like, if you got some secret, like, I want it, because like I remember when I first found out how old he was. I thought he was in his, like, maybe late 30s, and then when he told me he was like in his 50s, I was like, bullshit.
Okay, late 30s is kind of pushing it, but like early 40s.
We had a 50.
Sorry,
we celebrated his
Matt.
50. We celebrated his 51 year at the show. I remember.
Was that the show or TGI? Yeah.
No, that was the show.
It was the show. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he looks fantastic, I gotta
Yep.
say. I don't feel a day over 77. Dude, I believe it. I believe it. It will freeze in Dallas tomorrow. That's interesting.
Ooh, yeah, that doesn't.
They're getting a push of cold weather. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. The one time I went to Dallas, I mean, this was 2019. They had like an inch of snow, and people were like freaking the hell out. I'm like, of course, I left New England in January to come to Dallas with the inch of snow that's like shutting the city down. It's crazy.
Yeah, I feel like I gotta really puff this thing. Like, catch the heat up, Those bits coming off the top. Thought I got them all. I mean, it's not bad. I'm enjoying the cigar so far.
This is very good.
Shall we get into some of our topics of the evening?
Yeah, we have to
Shall
get
we move
into
along?
it. We have to get into it. That's why we're here. We get carried away with this conversation. It could have been food. Could have been food.
Ugh.
Coop knows. Coop knows. We've gone on shows before where we've burned an hour and 15 minutes about food, and it's like, oh shit, we don't talk about cigars.
Well, he is the food review king now of the cigar industry, so
Let's save the food for later. Let's make sure we hit our topics, and then we can always go back to food, because we know we can burn time with food. Coop knows that.
Food gets better numbers than cigars. So.
It does, dude. It really does.
It really does. It really does. Yeah.
People love the food. I mean, who doesn't like to eat?
It's changed our whole approach. I was saying on KMS, what changed the way we look at our website and everything, because we've got a whole new audience that came in. Because
Jay, let's talk cigars and food.
Yeah.
Jay told me his wife loves listening to this show, and because we also have off-topic conversations about stuff, and she likes the banter, and it's great. So we have to make sure we provide her some entertainment later on as well. I mean, that was, I always try to remember the Davis family, because they're a huge love and support of this group.
Ooh.
Stace Berkland's got something big in here, but you know what?
We will get to that, Stace.
I want to get to it. I'm just trying to decide, do I hit that now or do I do the other thing first?
Well, I would say let's stick to the agenda, and then we don't ignore it either,
Yeah, Stace, we're going to hit that. And if you have anything else to add, you can do so. But we're going to circle back, okay? No, we're not talking about Gabe Kapler. Thank you, Andrea. It's nice. It's nice to know that Andrea's listening tonight. It's really nice. I remember at the trade show, and I ran into them, and And Jay was like, I got to tell you. And I was like, okay. And and I was like, really? And he was like, she loves listening to the show. And I'm like, well, now that I know that, it's in there. And I make sure we give her some stuff to listen to too, because I like that. It's a family affair over there in Dallas. But so one of the bigger things that we kind of had cigar industry related wise was kind of an interesting topic, and we're gonna kind of break that down. So a few weeks ago, we got a press release from the Boutique Cigar Association saying that they were going to be starting these cigar sampler packs that would replace the member dues for the companies that were part of the BCA. And they're going to sell these packs, kind of similar to like the Freedom Pack that CRA does, except for it's going to represent all the boutique brands that are like part of the BCA and this and that, which cool concept. I think it's great that they went for that. I have a few reasons why it might be really slow to start, but whatever. I'll get to that after. And then shortly after that, we get this whole thing from Gabby Caffey saying that the BCA is going to dissolve itself. And I was like, oh, okay. Kind of interesting. And Coop, I know obviously you're on top of this as well.
Yep.
I don't know where I want to start with this. It's interesting. I mean, first of all, the BCA's had some struggles, for sure. They've had some struggles. I don't know, Coop. Help me through this. I don't know how I want to dissect this, or at least how I want to make the first slice.
All right. I'm gonna just say, there's a lot of people who gave a lot of time on the BCA, so I want to absolutely thank them, and that they gave a lot of time.
Yeah.
I remember when the BCA started, and this came out of the kind of the aftermath of the deeming rule, and they decided they wanted to form a trade association for the smaller companies. Seemed like on paper a good idea, but I always wondered right out of the gate why IPCPR didn't just handle this from the beginning, and that's another question I think. So I thought it was really good, but they formed it, right? And as someone who has had some experience with trying to start a trade association, I will tell you it is a very, very hard job. Okay, we tried it with the media association. I think you remember you and I first talked. I said I will never touch that again. Right? It is a hard thing to do, and so again, I give everyone who tried to do this a lot of credit. But I think BCA had a couple of problems out of the gate. Number one is I don't think they ever really articulated what their mission was. And number two is as a result of that, I don't think they got the power boutiques ever on board with that. And what I mean by the power boutiques are companies like Tatawahe, companies like that. I'll put even HVC in there. They didn't get those types of like the boutiques that had some more teeth that were making some traction there. The third thing that I think that really hurt them was I think they were just awful at communication. And I think they felt a need to communicate on everything, and sometimes you can't communicate on everything. You have to be the bad cop. And then, so I just think that those things hurt them right out of the gate, and then, there was talk about them, what are they, a trade association or are they a social group, and they were kind of going back and forth on that a couple of times. Like several times they went back and forth. There was statements saying we're gonna get away from advocacy and be social, and then but what then it kind of flip-flopped again. It seemed like about 3 or 4 years ago they started to make some really good headway. It seemed like they started to organize. They had set up, I think they brought a marketing company in, and it seemed like they were really starting to get serious about this. They got the pavilions, and then I think after the second pavilion, everything started to come apart for them. And I think one thing that they made a colossal mistake on is getting on their podcast and blasting the IPCPR for the floor space option that they got. Which, if you know how trade shows work, trade shows reward loyalty over the years. And if you're going to trade show 10, 12 years and you're paying your trade show dude, you're going to get better placement. That's just how every trade show works. And I think when they kind of started doing that, that was a bad move that they made, and everything just seemed to start to go downhill from there.
Well, then they started posting like memes that were insensitive. And as a serious trade organization, that's not the kind of thing you want to do.
We saw CRA go down that road a few years ago too, which was a bad.
We did. We did.
But CRA fixed that. I saw things that they would, and then, they were doing their events. Like they had the smoke on the creek, and then you started hearing about events, and then they're abruptly getting canceled, right? A lot of abrupt type of things happen, and this was an abrupt announcement, by the way. This past week, I don't know how else. It was very abrupt. I'll tell you how abrupt it was. I was listening to their podcast following the announcement of the sampler packs, and they specifically said in this podcast, BCA is here to stay. They were making comments about that, how they're here to stay. They're not going anywhere.
Right.
So something happened in the last few weeks that we may never know for a long time that made such an abrupt change. And shut me up if you want me to shut me up.
No, keep going.
I had a thought when this happened, right? And my thought was, I looked at, we criticize the other trade associations a lot, right? But I sat there and I said, imagine if PCA one day just said, hey, we're shutting the whole thing down to spend time with our families, right? I mean, it's a valid point. I mean, people invested in this, and then suddenly there was no one who could take this over. Was like, how is no one taking this over? And there's some good folks. There's some good folks who were associated with this. So I'm not saying they're all bad. They're not bad people. They're good. I've gotten a chance to talk to them. They're good people. Why wouldn't they just take the ball with this at this point? So something happened that we just don't know. I don't know if we'll ever know it.
Yeah, I mean, that happens all the time in the cigar industry. There's things that happen, and you're like, we don't really know the whole story, but we know there's more, but we don't know if we'll ever know. But concerning a group like that, yeah, I mean,
they were so close to their 10-year anniversary. So that's another thing. You're right. Someone else could have taken it over, but you can't make everyone care. So all of the people who were participating in this, there's definitely a handful of standouts of people who cared more than others when it came to the BCA. I know like Abby Caffey was like spearheading a lot of different things, but if you don't have the support of everyone or majority, then it's going to flop, right? Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
clearly just something broke down.
As someone, you have a kid now, and you'll always have banter with your kid, right? And when the kid starts talking back, a lot of times my kid would always want to get the last word in, right? And it seemed like the BCA decided that they were going to get the last word in. They're shutting down, but then they kind of said, we're supporting Cigar Association of America's definition of a premium cigar. That shocked the hell out of me when they did that, right? This is a group that for years were talking about how these big companies at the CAA were evil, okay, and didn't have the interests of the family-owned companies. And they, PCA, there was a long-standing relationship with PCA. My thing is, okay, maybe even if you disagree with PCA's definition, you're entitled to that. Why would you just go get that last word in? It's like, that was just so unprofessional in my opinion. Just, you don't need to do it. You're shutting down. You're out. Just go. And they can't get at this. Well, we're going to have a blog now. We're going to do press. Like, well, no, you're either in or out at this point. I don't see why you're trying to milk this thing anymore. But don't get that last word in. Just get out at that point, because I don't think that was, and they never explained their reasoning for that statement either. So that's the big thing I had a problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've all known that the industry faces challenges. That's why these groups exist. If you follow it even a little bit, you know that we have multiple organizations, and yet none of them really ever seem to be on the same page, or want to, or why didn't they all just become one? And have one? There's multiple groups doing different things, because and I'm not saying this to attack any of them. It's just black and white, right? It's because all of those organizations have different agendas, and they do different things.
Yeah.
And I know Jay's listening, and he's on the board, so I mean, I'm sure he'll respond, from a PCA perspective or standpoint. But I mean, in the basic sense, right? PCA and the CRA both have an agenda with cigar rights and protecting the FDA battles and all that. They were involved in all that. PCA does tend to, and anyone can step in here if they want to make and I'm making this simple. I'm not trying to make this into like a sharp definition, but the PCA for the most part is a group that does focus on federal things, but I would say it's safe to say they spend more energy state to state versus the CRA, which is a little bit more focused on the federal level. And again, both of them look at both sides of that, but one focuses a little bit more here and the other one focuses a little bit more here. Then you have the CAA, which is a complete different monster all in itself. And there's a lot of different ways to look at the CAA. And I've spoken to some very established and respected retailers and manufacturers who are no longer members of the CAA. And I've heard some very good arguments. I'm not going to really get into the specifics, but I've heard a lot of good arguments as to why they left that group and why they do spend so much time, pouring in support and money into, CRA and PCA or one or the other. But I do notice a common theme with some pretty respectable retailers and manufacturers that do not like to be a part of CAA. And I think it's because the CAA sometimes has goals that might benefit itself and its members that don't necessarily benefit the rest of the premium cigar industry. And so, again, kind of wrapping all this up, you have these different trade organizations. Then, you get the BCA, which, like Coop said, on paper, it's like, wow, now you have a group that's dedicated to just the smaller companies and the smaller brands. And I think on paper, it's a good idea. It's a great concept. Because of how it was made up, it is tricky because, again, forming a trade organization is not easy. And it's not really it's harder to grow it and get funding and get strength to, it does have its own challenges like any of the other ones do. And it's hard. PCA's been around, God, how long? I mean, 1920 something, I think? 1933, yeah. And it's been different things. It's been the IPCPR, it's been the RTTDA. But it's been around, that same body. CRA, how long has CRA been around?
I want to say 2008. It's not that old.
Okay, all right. But they're still, I mean, that's, it's a good amount of time, and they're still around. They're still doing their thing. CAA, I know, has been around for a while, too. Yeah. And the BCA, like Nicole said, they were a few years shy of 10 years. So, I mean, it's not like they just popped up like 2 years ago, but it's they had a good stretch, and it's hard to build off of that. Now, we also know that they've made some mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, but I think some of the mistakes they made may have cost them progress in front of them, and it set them back or whatever. Or they made some gambles that just didn't quite hit for them. And I get it too. You gotta try to throw some shit against the wall and see what sticks, right? But and it's tricky. It just didn't really pan out for them. And I think that if they made a couple of different moves, maybe they would have been a little bit more successful. Therefore, there might have been some people who were a little bit more willing to pick up the torch.
Yeah. Go ahead, Nicole.
Oh, I was just gonna say super quick. So, I also think though, it was a volunteer based group. I don't. They did admit that no one made a salary, so it was all time put in by these people. And I wonder too, because of that, and because clearly their fees were small or non-existent for their members, right? They weren't generating this revenue where they could really help when it came down to like compliance and regulatory pressure for their members. That's the other thing. I wonder if there was a call to action from their members, to do more of these things, and they couldn't financially fight them. They didn't have the backing to do that. So it did make more sense to just, relay them back into the PCA, and CRA, because they just can't, as all of these things are happening, with the government.
That was a big problem that I had with them is like day one, they should have been focused on fundraising. They weren't on day one. And ultimately I get it's not something where a lot of these people had disposable income, but there's and they certainly I think tried some things to do fundraising. I'm not saying they didn't try, but they were never able to do that. And I don't ever remember a time where BCA said, "Hey, we cut a check to the fund here." They certainly gave their time, and I want to say these people all certainly gave their time, and that shouldn't be dismounted. However, in the end, and I look at this as someone who's worked in the corporate world for 35 years, my answer is, how effective are you? You may have attended a very important meeting, but what was your role in that meeting? What did you do to drive something in that meeting? It's not just that you were sitting in the meeting, it's what did you, it's not even that you weren't participating in the meeting. What did you do to change the agenda on something? I never really saw that happen. So between the fundraising and that, there was a lot of ineffectiveness if I had to grade them. And if they did do these types of things, it wasn't very well communicated, is what I'm saying. So I can't give them a passing grade on anything. In fact, when I look at when they abruptly stopped, you mean they had nothing going on that needed closure, right? That's, when you shut something down, you usually have a plan to shut it down. Look at when Ferry Otego shut down, or Nat Sherman, whatever you want to say, shut down back a few years ago. There's a plan to kind of finish what's out there and put some closure on things. I didn't see anything with that other than we're keeping the sampler packs, which is okay, but that really wasn't that. So what it was telling me is I don't think they had their hand in anything at a significant enough level. And 9 years, you probably should have had a little more at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that going into it, I think that they had good intentions. I think they had a nice idea. I think that what they represented was interesting. To represent those companies. Most of the trade organizations are dominated by all the big guys. The guys who got the money, the guys who've been around, the guys who got the celebrity. You know what I mean?
The connections.
Which those are very important to have. That's they control a large percentage of the market, and but sometimes the smaller guys are not as well represented. I understand that, and so
I understand that too.
I understand. I think it was a great idea, but you're right. I think the biggest issue they had was the failure of execution. Yeah. It was like, hey, we're like when for example, when the BCA was like, oh yeah, we're gonna merge, not merge. I don't want to use that word because it's really not what it was, but they like partnered and connected with PCA, right? It's like, oh, that's cool. But then it's like, well, but you talk about these meetings you're at. Well, what did you contribute to that? Were you just like in the room and you're like, okay, that's cool, and you just like went with the PCA's lead, or did you have like your own, like, well, we want to, bring our piece of the pie to the table? I mean, how aggressive were they? That's the part that I want to know.
Having a seat at the table is not enough. In this case, it is what are you doing to drive the agenda here? What are you doing on that?
Like I can sit at the table on Sunday for dinner, but am I going to eat anything, or am I just there to watch?
Yeah. I don't know how you make that statement, so I'm not even going to comment on that. You have no clue, so we can't we can't judge that, right?
Right.
What I will say is there were some sharp people I've talked to on there. The Greg Freeze, a very sharp guy. I know he was involved with them. Armand, who was the president for a while, seemed like a good guy as well. So I think Gabby was in over his head a lot of times with this. And it's hard. Like I said, it is very hard to do a trade association. I mean, I will tell you, I learned it firsthand. And a lot of times, yeah, and it's very hard. Especially, I think they tried to make everybody happy. And you know the expression, when you try to make everybody happy, it doesn't work, right? So you have to sometimes be the bad cop in cases. And sometimes with PCA, they have to be the bad cop. And with CRA, they have to be the bad cop. And you may not, but there's things they have to do sometimes as a trade association. You can't just make everybody happy. You know, part of the things when I looked at the pavilion, I kept seeing, and I did, you know, I didn't get a chance to cover the pavilion. I didn't have the bandwidth, and I would have liked to. It seemed like they were promoting more of the family aspect of these companies in the pavilion, and not like what were they doing to help these companies get acclimated to a trade show. I think that was a big thing. Like a lot of people that never had been to trade shows before, they didn't know how to do a trade show, and that's something I think they should have been doing with that, instead of just saying, hey, it's posing for group photos. In my opinion, that just wasn't enough. You know, they weren't at the pavilion. I kept getting all the messages. No one gave me a compelling reason to go to the pavilion. Come to my booth is not enough to go to there. Why am I going to your booth? What value are you bringing? What are you guys bringing to? That stuff was never really communicated, and that's, I think, ultimately why the pavilion failed. On top of that, because I think it's proven you could survive a bad booth location at a trade show. You can absolutely survive a bad booth location. So I can't buy them saying they had a bad booth location for that, because I've seen it. Go look at somewhere Justo Aroa's booths were in the early years. You know, you can make it work because there's compelling reasons to go to there, and that wasn't created.
I obviously I wasn't at the trade show this past year, but the year before, was that the first? I can't remember if it was the
That's
first.
when they had
or
the
second.
pavilion.
Yeah, but was that the first year?
That was the second one.
Too.
Yeah.
They
That was
did
the second
too.
one.
Okay, so the first year then, if they did it this past year, right? I covered. So me and Matthew split up our coverage, and I actually did the interviews at the BCA pavilion, and so, you know, some of them very put together, but other than there were just some people that sat there and they treated it kind of like, oh, hey, I have this table, like, who are you? And like, coming by as a media company, it's a little bit different. I know Matthew's more, unfortunately, my husband is more well known than me, even though I've been helping build Smoke and Tobacco, you know, for a while. But they, you know, some of them were like, oh, who are you? Do you even smoke cigars? I'm like, oh, you know, I'm with a media company. Like, they had no idea. They were just sitting, you know, I could have been anyone. And just the way that they approached me was rude.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? You know, and that aside, you know, I would explain, hey, I'm here, you know, we're doing, you know, I'm with this media company. We're doing coverage of the show. You know, we do these like 5-minute, you know, YouTube videos just to promote everyone and anyone who's at the trade show. Some of them took the time to talk to me. Some of them saw me as a waste of time, even though they had no one lined up at their booth to talk to them. Some of them had almost no, no stock or retail. I know there was one company there that had absolutely nothing at their booth.
There was one I heard.
They had nothing to show, and not that, you know, we weren't, you know, trying to get cigars, but they had nothing to show, and they were like, yeah, we don't really have anything here, because I would at least take photos of the boxes while I was at the booth for some of the write-ups that we do and whatnot. Some of them were great and lovely, you know, people and companies, of course, but not all of them. And, you know, when you have that mentality, like, who are you? And you have, you know, some of these larger retailers come by that maybe they've never had exposure to. Like, I don't know, some of them were just sitting there kind of treating it like a herf almost, just like sitting like like a party. They weren't taking it seriously for what it was and what opportunity it could have brought them and brought their companies.
Do you remember the Sutliff Tobacco booth?
Yes.
So they kind of had their own pavilion when they were doing it.
Yep.
And there was a ton of engagement in that area.
Yeah.
Now, part of it was people came in because of the pipe tobacco. I get that.
Yep.
But I also felt that those companies were very well prepared to deal with, the operations of a trade show.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if BCA provided education to their members or not. They might have, and maybe they just. But there was a disconnect because there should have been a lot of education there saying, you know, look, you know, you're gonna have media coming. You know, this is what you need to do as far as, you know, taking orders and basic stuff. And and I wasn't there, but I talked to enough people, and now hearing from you, that it was clear that a lot of people did not know the purpose of being there. other than maybe they could hopefully sell cigars. It seemed
Almost like going to a craft fair. Like that's what it felt like for them.
It almost felt that's what I heard. I heard flea market was the term I used, and that's not derogatory on a flea market.
No.
My dad used to go to flea markets all the time, right?
Yeah.
And had very good experiences there. So, but a flea market has a very different, and it is a trade show. So and I don't know, and I don't think it was PCA's job to do this other than to make sure that the BCA was in sync with things. You could maybe put a little on PCA. They should have given some expectations, but in general, some of those people who were in the pavilion have done multiple trade shows. Gabby's been at trade shows, so
yeah, and his was great. Like, he was ready to go. He had people. It was put together. They had everything displayed lovely. It was what you would expect from all, but what you should have expected that from all of the booths in that pavilion.
Yeah. Well, I could tell you, with Nicole's comment, I wanted to add something, and it's something I've noticed as well. When she talked about, going by some of the booths and the people were just kind of like sitting down, and they were like, you come up to them and they're like, who are you? Like, there's this thing, right, that I've noticed with, I've seen some big guys do it, but more often than not, it's really the smallest guys who do it. And it's something I've picked up on, whether it's at a trade show or in a shop or wherever. There's sometimes a lack of humbleness. And you see these, like, small guys, like, for example, like Peter Gross from ATL Cigars. And they think that they're bigger and tougher than they are. And they like to approach you like, oh, yeah, like, I know this business better than everybody here. Like, you know what I'm talking about. There's, like, an attitude when you walk into the booth, or, like, when you're like, hey, you're being outgoing, and then the attitude's like, oh, who are you? Yeah. Like, yeah, I've been around. I know this business. I've never heard of you, but it's like, or whatever it is. Like, there's this cockiness from some of the small brands, and it's like, all right, calm down. I'm here to help you. I'm trying to help you get exposure. I just want to meet you, say hello. I'm here to give you the traffic that you're looking for, so that way you can't say, well, no one came by. I'm coming by to talk to you. I've noticed it. Enough where it's worth bringing up. And I'm not trying to, like, knock people, but, like, if that is how you show up to a trade show, you're only shooting yourself in the foot. You got to be out there.
Well, and this is specific, but, now you're getting a little bit on the topic of just media going up to people, too. And granted, if people don't have time because they're busy processing orders and things like that and they don't want to talk, that's a completely different story where people can just say that, like, oh, hey, we're so sorry, we don't have time to chat with you, don't have time to do this right now, but come back later, or we'll connect offline. Very different. I know you're talking, like, specifically about the people who have the egos when you go right up to them and they're not doing anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it you see that, but and those are the same people that, like, after the show, they go on Facebook and they, like, bitch about how the show sucked and, like, oh, no one even came, and it's like, well, because you're sitting there like this, like, you don't look inviting. Like, who wants to come up to a brand that most people haven't heard of and talk to a guy who's sitting down,
probably
looking miserable? It's like, I'm going to keep on going. They want to go to the guy who's standing up at the front, like, hey, how's it going? Hey, how's it going? Hey, how's it going? Oh, yeah, this is our brand. Yeah, we've been around for 3 years. Yeah, I'd love to talk to you about it. Like, that's the people that it's basic, it's just basic, like, sales. You're selling yourself. You're selling your brand. You're selling your product. You got to get people in. You got to get people who want to come talk to you. You have to be inviting. You have to be welcoming. You can't just sit there like, yeah, I know all about fucking cigar factories and shit like that. You guys don't even know. It's like, yeah, like, nobody wants to talk to that guy. Nobody wants to talk to the guy. And I'll be honest with you, I run into that more often than you think. And it's unfortunate because those people, whatever, good luck, dude. But, like, no one's going to want to talk to you. And I did see some of that in that pavilion. And, the same guy I saw doing that, I saw after the show bitching and complaining about it on social media. And it's like, well, I mean, that's on you at that point. Do I think that the BCA as a whole could have done some things that helped people better? Yes, absolutely. But I also think that the organization or the people at the top of the organization can't take all the heat, because Nicole's right. There was a few people individually who chose to not act the right way.
Absolutely. I agree on that.
And that's all I'm trying to convey.
If anything, they should have sent an email just being like, "This is how you engage people at the trade show."
Yeah, I mean,
like
if I was
like an
BCA,
etiquette email.
if I was a BCA, I'd be like, "Hey guys, like this is a big deal for us. We got this spot on the show, and we really want to get excited about it. We want to get the people excited about it who are coming to the show. And maybe they said something, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that was stress. Like, if it was me, I'd be like, we want to really, we want this to be a home run. We want to show the PCA, we're going to do our thing. We have our approach, and, we want to make, we want to be like, wow, shit, we got to bring that pavilion back, and, that was great. And, it was, 50-50, there was, Som Cigars was in that, and, Vlad from Som, great guy. Nicole met him first. I met him at another show, actually. He was a great guy. He was very welcoming. I remember, I'll never forget that last show in Vegas when she met him, and she was like, "That guy Vlad, Som Cigar, he's a nice guy." They did an interview together, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I had that banked in my file, oh, that's a good guy. And I met him at TPE 6 months later, and great guy.
Yeah, we tend to split up when we try to do, a lot of the coverage, of course. So I'm more shy, so I try to do some of the smaller brands, whereas Matthew does the larger ones. And so, but it's very interesting how, I mean, I could go into a whole topic about it, but how I get treated very differently when Matthew is not with me and I'm going around as a solo female trying to do stuff. But even as a smaller, media company, we are definitely not, there's obviously much larger cigar media out on the floor and whatnot. We came one year, a few years ago, and we still bring them with us, but we have we made little brochure pamphlets on who we are and what we do.
Yeah,
as a small media company,
when we were newer. I mean, a lot of people are familiar with us now, but there are still people who,
when we were newer, we do this. This is where you can find us. This, this is what what we're doing today. This is how you can contact us after. This is where you could see the interview that we make, and where we put it out. Just as a little one pager for people who didn't know us, because we don't always have that much time to chat with people. But what in little old us. If we did that, why can't some of these little cigar companies come up with certain things like that to engage some new consumers at the trade show too?
I agree.
So,
yeah.
We're on a different, doing it from a different perspective, but still, I think it, I'm in a completely different industry, but I sometimes have to go to trade shows and things like that and promote what we do. And, as a smaller booth, how do you engage people and get people to stop by your booth, be engaging?
I'll be honest, I mean, it's made me a little cautious when I walk into certain booths now, because I'm like, how is this gonna go? And just based on my experience, and you kind of, I've done a bunch of shows now, so I'm very comfortable and familiar with how I roam the floor. And I walk into a booth maybe that I've never been into before, or a company that I don't know very well, or I haven't met before, whatever, but I read the booth. I read the people, the body language. I walk into a booth that's not super busy, and they don't approach me after 2 minutes. It's but I know they all see me in there, and it's okay. You start to kind of mentally prepare for whenever that interaction is going to take place, and based on how it's gone before. You know what I mean? And you have to kind of, you got to try to find a way to match the energy and, whatever. And Coop, this. I mean, every booth you go into, it's going to be different, and so now sometimes when I go into these smaller booths, and I read the room, I'm prepared for and, not that I treat them the same, but I'm not going to be as aggressive. I'm going to let them come out of the shell first or whatever. And then sometimes they do, and it's fine. And sometimes they don't. And I'm like, well, we have a priority of things we need to cover at the show. So if there's not an interest there, then I have to keep moving, because I can't waste time.
But trade show things aside, and back to the BCA.
Yeah, I know.
For a minute, because we kind of, got a little off topic there. But back to BCA, I hope that now that, they're gone, that, PCA does try to do their own type of, or reimagine the pavilion idea, because I do think, it would be good for them to have an easier way for some of these smaller boutique companies to be included the trade show still. I don't think that idea is
I agree.
Is bad. I just think it needs to be redone, and maybe they can take the reins without the BCA being around now. And what would they do differently to include those people?
Well, I remember when they first started doing it. I mean, Coop, you and I talked about it, and what we found was interesting was, the way they kind of set that up was similar to the way that TPE kind of had, with the what do you call them?
Yeah.
The little
they were pavilions. They
called it pavilions too.
Right. No, but but the little pagodas in what I mean.
Yeah.
The kiosk, right? And I thought it was a good idea. And maybe there's a company because people talk. A lot of small companies are like, well, I go to TPE because it's cheaper. Well, I understand. I think that PCA, that's where you need to fire most of your ammo versus TPE for a lot of reasons that we're not going to waste time getting into, but. Let's all just agree, PCA, that's an important show if you're going to run a business in this industry, right? So I think having those little kiosks, maybe at a cheaper rate for a company that's not so big, that doesn't need to fill out even a 10 by 10 or whatever the smallest booth is, being able to be in that pavilion with 15 other kiosks like that, and maybe it's even cheaper. You just have this little kiosk. It's great. You can get your foot in the door a little bit more.
Or have a boutique membership for companies under a certain size.
Get them in. I mean, because obviously, first of all, you want to see as many manufacturers exhibit at the show as possible because it raises money for PCA. That's number one. Number two, you get them in the room with everybody there. That's like the Super Bowl of the year for buying cigars. You want to be in that room. You know what I'm saying? So that also gets you in the room. It's good for you. There's a lot of good reasons for it. And whatever, starting a business, when you're that small, I get it. Things are, you're watching every penny. So I think if they can continue to offer that for companies, that it makes it more affordable for them and it gets them the exposure, and it gets people in, I think that's a good idea.
There's a lot of options they certainly can do with that, right?
Yeah.
We talked about, remember when the pavilion started. I was like, well, I mean, and I get why they partnered with BCA. It was kind of like, okay, because they want to basically, the BCA membership got you the pavilion. I think that was the whole thing they were doing. So I get it. But, now it's not a BCA. I would say, I think a pavilion isn't a bad idea. However, I would say it's a 1-year thing you get. Right? Make the most of it for 1 year if you want. And if you have a good year, you come back and get 10 by 10. I wouldn't make it every year. Just because, obviously that could hurt some of your revenue. So you want to be a little careful. And I think the trade show still is a source of revenue with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
1 year, I think 1 year is fine. You get the kiosk, try the trade show out for 1 year. And if that works, and you feel this is worth it, come back, go to a 10 by 10 next year.
It would also help to weed people out, because if they're successful, hopefully they would need a 10 by 10 the next year.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
I saw some of the Sutliff companies do that. So Adventura, I believe, was in the Sutliff Pavilion 1 year, and then the year after they moved into an adjacent booth outside of there.
Mm-hmm.
They were able to grow with that. So, and like I said, Sutliff, it seemed to work well. I get it that the pipe tobacco brought a lot of people in, but in general, I saw those companies that were in there were pretty well prepared for the trade show for the most part. There were a couple of exceptions, but mostly I thought it was a very good. And now, I know that there's a new distribution company, but they don't have a pavilion, and I think it's, at the same time, setting up a pavilion and organizing that is hard. It's hard work. So I certainly don't say that every distribution company should do that, but you just, like I said, you really, if people are going to be going to a trade show, they have to be well prepared. And the other thing I'll say is, I have a strong feeling on this, that trade shows are I understand it's a buying event. However, trade shows are also there to promote the industry as a whole. And one way you promote the industry as a whole is use your media channels. And certainly you balance that out with sales stuff. Our opinion is we've never interfered with sales business. However, we expect the same in return once we're talking to someone. And there's always a couple of exceptions where something does happen, and we recognize that. But in general, I think we I can't tell you how many times I had people interrupting Matt Booth, interviewing, and I can hear now Coop's whining about this again. No, it's a respect thing. I'm sorry, it's a respect thing. And if companies are, a lot of companies now devote time to the media. They recognize it. Look at Steve Saka. He spends his entire week with the media, and he has his team do the rest. STG gives a lot of time to the media. Altadis really improved their time with the media this year. Davidoff has time with the media. Some companies I don't like. Some companies have pushed for those media those media press conferences. I'm no longer a fan of those for a lot of reasons. I'll still go to them, but I do need some one-on-one time with them sometimes too. So, I recognize that kind of gets the wrapper binder filler discussion off the table if you get everyone together at once. But there's things I want to ask that are not necessarily a thing that is I'm going to ask in front of a group. And there's just certain things we want to ask one-on-one. So
I agree, 100%.
And I think you guys would have, and you guys should have that. Everyone should have that too. So, like I said, you're going to a trade show in 2025, 2026. Media is part of what you're doing. I'm not saying you take your eye off the ball at sales, but it is a part of what you do.
No, and you're right. And I think part of those types of like media, roundtable things or whatever happened though because there were media on the trade show floor that really weren't doing as well of a job as they could have been. So, you have more like fanboy people and things like that where they are wasting time, some of these people's time. Do you know what I mean? And that's kind of ruined it for other people.
There was one company. Yeah, I agree. There was one company this year that basically said if you didn't have an appointment, you weren't getting time, and I saw a sign in the booth. And I understand that, by the way. I totally understand that. At the same time, I think you should still try to accommodate someone who does, like, maybe didn't know that, is what I'm saying. I always respect if someone specifically says you need that appointment, I'll do that. But some people just may not have gotten that message. So I think you need to find a way to kind of work with some of those folks. So whether it's scheduling time later in the week or schedule time. By the way, I've been using after the trade show conversations and before the trade show conversations a lot more in the last couple of years. And it's made things a lot easier. And I'm going to be using it extremely a lot more next year, I can tell you that. So where basically I try to talk to companies beforehand or after the trade show. Some companies it's easier to talk to them after the trade show, particularly if they're not going to tell you what they have at the trade show beforehand. So you have that. And there was one company that I talked to them after the trade show and I got everything I needed. So I'm finding the trade show isn't sometimes the best place. I get people are really busy. So there's other ways you could do that to get the things you want.
Agreed.
Yeah. No, I agree. The trade show is an animal in multiple ways.
We kind of got away from BCA again on that, but there's nothing stopping the BCA companies from getting space next year. And maybe if there's other, like I said, I'm not committing to saying there'll be other creative options, but I think if some of the people who were really, I'd say this is what I would say: you have leadership in place that's willing to have a conversation, have the conversations. We've seen that with the leadership has been very good on stuff with that. So. They're open to communication on that. So have those conversations if you want to be a part of the trade show, and even though there's not a BCA.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of things that those companies who are part of the group, they can do on their own, or you gotta find a way. Excuse me. Find a way. To just continue to better yourself. And if you don't, PCA didn't work out, okay, but don't just I don't know, just stay engaged, stay in touch with the PCA. The PCA can do a lot for you, and try to make it work. Try to be going to the trade show, getting in there, getting the exposure, and who knows? I mean, maybe I'll put it on the table because no one's said it yet, but maybe there's a possibility in the future that BCA gets resurrected. With somebody else or whatever. Someone's got the time that really put into it. I don't know. I'm not saying they will, but it could. It always could. It always could. Someone could maybe say, we should really bring that back, and I'm gonna do it this time, and I have some ideas and the time and the money, whatever. you know, hey, maybe then it will flourish. I don't know, you know, and I'm just saying, you know, it might not be dead forever, you know, but
Yeah, I would say if anyone's going to do it again, and again, someone who has experience with this, and really have your vision statement. Coming up with a vision statement is one thing, but really have it honed down.
and then live by it.
And live by it, right?
Yeah.
And and like I said, focus on fundraising. Any association that's advocating has to have fundraising. Otherwise, you're a social club, and that's all you'll be.
And that's why the PCA does the trade show, and people forget that's what the whole purpose of the
That's
trade
why
show
they're
is.
going to Dubai, and that's why they're doing things in Dubai to never
Yeah.
be beholden on the trade show again. Fundraising, look, they got caught with their pants down in 2020 when they lost their source of revenue. So one thing I've admired about Scott and Josh is how they have looked at these alternatives, and I think this is a really good thing that they're thinking ahead. You know, who knows if there's another pandemic someday or something like that. Never be caught with that again. But fundraising is absolutely vital. And the world, look, in the end, trade works around money. It's not enough to say, and you know, you have to come up with ways to raise money. And that, if you have effective ways of raising money, all the other things you're going to try to do are going to be easier, is what I'm going to say.
I agree with that statement. I think that you know, the current leadership at PCA, and even, you know, like, you mentioned Scott, you mentioned Josh, they've done a good job of trying to diversify the things that they do. That brings in revenue, brings exposure. But you know what? At least they're trying. You know, and it's like it's like any business. You know, you get a seat at the table, and you know, it's like, well, what else can we do? What kind of, you know, what can we do to continue to grow or develop, or, you know, because you can't. Any successful business person will tell you, you can't, you know, you find that thing that's a home run, right? And that works, and it's great, and maybe it'll last a while too. But you can't live off of that one home run. You know, you also have to find the next one. You know, you can't just be like, well, we hit it out of the park with this. This is it. This is what we do, and we're gonna run with it. Like, no, you gotta score multiple runs. You know, so you gotta find other things. And I think the PCA is, in that regard, they're doing a great job right now.
Yeah, they are. And like I said, there's a lot of volunteers on that staff too. And as much as someone may disagree with someone on the board of directors, guess what? They're giving a lot of time to this, right? And we should be thanking them for it. Now, obviously, if you don't like the job they're doing, you have a way. The best thing is you can vote them out of a job in a few years, right? So,
yeah,
that's kind of how our country works, right? You don't like the job the president's doing, you vote him out of his job. You know, certainly you and I think they've made it more transparent now, where you can make that happen, I would say. So, look, I'll be very honest. You know, I'm asked sometimes, you know, I'm not in board meetings, right? So I can't comment on how good or bad a job someone's doing. That's not my. What I can say is ask the questions, like on things, so you know who's advocating for you and who's not.
Absolutely, I agree. Stace had a question here. Do either of you panelists believe TPE gave premium cigar manufacturers more customers or orders, making it worth doing TPE and PCA shows? Standing on the sidelines, it seems overkill. That's a very interesting question.
I say yes.
Yes, and I think the reason is, well, it might be a couple of reasons. The biggest one being you have different clientele that goes to TPE versus PCA. I think you do more business at PCA. That I think speaks for itself. The second part of it is, do I think that hold on, let me reread that again. This stupid thing keeps popping up. More customers and orders. So, yeah, you definitely get more orders at PCA than TPE. You do get some different clientele at TPE than you do at PCA. PCA is almost exclusively going to be all traditional, premium cigar retailers that we all know and love. TPE, those people go to TPE too. Not probably as many,
It depends on the time of the year of both those shows.
Depends on the time of
as
the
we've
year.
seen.
The other thing that I used to hear a lot. The other thing I used to hear a lot was, you know, with TPE. Well, you know, you get like the alternative stores, you know, that do other products and other tobacco products, and maybe they want to bring some cigars in. So they'll bring some stuff in. They probably not going to buy as heavy as a traditional retailer. So you're getting some traffic there.
Your convenience store owner who has a 6-foot humidor in there.
Yeah, I mean, you get some
shop.
of that. I mean, and it seemed that a good amount, I'm not going to say everybody, but there was a good amount of people who, you know, you talked to about TPE and they felt really good about it when it was over. They felt like they were able to justify making that trip. Now with the trade show in New Orleans, although this year I think the shows are like 2 weeks apart, so that's a separate discussion for after. But like last year, they were kind of close, but you had people who said like, "Oh, we feel like a lot of our West Coast customers are going to come just see us at TPE. They're not going to make the trip all the way up to New Orleans." And then a lot of some of the East Coast people that used to come to TPE, they're not even going to waste their time because they're just going to go to New Orleans. So you have that kind of dynamic, and it'll be interesting to see how that goes down the line, because, you know, with shows that do take place in New Orleans versus when they do take place in Vegas, because it is going to alternate, as we know. Do I think that, like, this coming year, do I really think it? I really don't think it's going to be beneficial, because the two shows are very close together. You're not going to both. You have no reason to go to both. And the only reason would be if you're from California or somewhere on the West Coast and there's certain people that might be at TPE that's all you need to talk to. Maybe you don't want to make the trip to New Orleans, but in the grand scale, I mean, I still think that PCA is the bigger, more important show for premium cigars.
We were hearing in 2020, and that was the only TPA I went to. And the word coming out of this is the IPCPR is dead. PCA, they would just change the name of it. And that TPE was going to be the next big thing, right? And I contend there was definitely some TPE was trying to see what they could do, because IPCPR was on the ropes. They had the worst trade show they ever had in 2019. I'll say that. Was a disaster of a trade show. TPE comes in, and TPE did some things to get people to their show. They had a lot of hosted programs where tickets were given, travel vouchers were given, food vouchers were given. They did awards.
They had some free. Yeah, they had free hotel rooms.
Free hotels. That's what I'm saying. There were awards, so you got some bigger names out there. But that was all a house of cards, because if you're paying people to be out there and they're not really going to commit to buying, ultimately that's not, you got bodies in there, and ultimately it wasn't going to solve a problem at all. So so I never saw them take a big enough step, other than those companies that were pushing things like fresh packs and, you know, like you said, those displays you were talking about. I never really saw that happen. You know, for example, I'm smoking on the floor, and I remember having a conversation with our friend John. I said, "Hey, John, you guys going to TP?" And he was explaining, "No, it's not our customers that are going to be there, and it's not a space we're trying to get in with our customers. We're going to put." And remember, at the time, LaFleur was even on the fence about PCA at the time.
Yeah,
they sat out 1 year, if you remember.
I do.
So, but they recognized that TP wasn't the alternative for them. It wasn't for their market space, and they didn't do that ultimately.
Yeah, and you know, now you got TPE, who I feel. I went in 21. I went in 22, 23. I did not go in 24. And then in 25, this year, I went back again. And I will tell you, from 23 to 25, I noticed a dramatic change. A lot less manufacturers. The premium cigar section is like 2 aisles.
Yeah.
It's like this compared to this. And it keeps getting smaller and smaller. And now you have the PCA, which is in like this nice surge right now, which is great. Moved closer to TPE. This year, like I said, I think they're like 2 weeks apart, 2.5 maybe.
Yeah, and that was an issue.
They're very close.
If I was TP, I would have moved it out of Vegas that year.
Yeah, because you know something, like, I mean, I can tell you, I asked people walking around, I'm like, well, what are you doing next year? And the biggest guys were like, we'll have a table here because we want to support Kretek. Other than that, not gonna we're not gonna blow the house money on this trade show. We're blowing it in New Orleans. And the small people were like, I mean, I'm not doing both. You know, I'm just going to go to New Orleans. So, I don't know. I mean, 26, premium cigar section, might be like, you can probably walk through that in like 10 minutes.
Yeah. You know, I see a comment about ROI, and there's two types of ROI. There's tactical ROI and there's strategic ROI. I don't know necessarily if TP provided a strategic ROI. You can go there and certainly justify making sales, but how is that sustaining your longer-term business is my question. I don't know necessarily if that happened at TPE. Particularly as now there's a lot less principals that go there. Now it's become more of a rep fest. And again, nothing wrong with that. But, you know, in general, you know, you want to have the stakeholders there. And the stakeholders are not going to be there 2 weeks before the major trade show for the industry. And there's people that want to get behind. There are people that have supported the PCA for years, IPCPR for years, that, you know, have stayed loyal. I think ultimately they still stayed very loyal. Big Four was a different story. But, you know, even with Big Four, it was really only Altadis and Drew Estate that went heavy into TPE. Davidoff did not do heavy, and STG did not do heavy with that. So
I also see a comment here from Stace. I see TPA as being more for other lesser tobacco products, not premium. Am I wrong? No, it's a vape fest. There's a lot of like those Delta 8 products and things that are sold like in convenience stores and gas stations. A lot of that stuff there. So like the fake pot stuff in states that where it's still illegal. And then also just like nicotine vapes and things like that. That is like most of the show. And then Alan said here, I think the PCA dates are definitely negatively impacting attendance for manufacturers and retailers for TP. Well, one of the things too is that they only have so much stuff for their booths. And so, you know, from what I heard is that they have to pay to store it. So when both shows were in Vegas, they could just pay to keep their stuff there. And now they do need to move it, right? If they're going to attend both the Vegas show at TPE and then also to PCA in New Orleans. So now they have this like, well, how are we going to get this stuff from point A to point B? The logistics of that, it's more, you know, it's more money just to move these large scale displays and things like that, which, you know, so now it makes also sense to just commit to one, right? If you're gonna, if that's gonna be an issue for you.
Yeah. And the other thing is that PCA, I think, has done a great job at the experiential component of things. TPE had, I guess, TPE did have one good open. The party I went to was a very good opening party. That blew away most of the IPCPR stuff I had seen up to date with that. But you do need to make it experiential. Not, you know, I think, you know, one of the things I heard out of Dubai is Dubai needs to become more experiential, and I agree. Just from someone who's been to Dubai twice. And I think they'll do that. I think Josh will think 2 years ahead already on something like that. I think TP kind of capped where they were going to be. I don't think they could make it more experiential.
You know what's interesting too is that TP, I wonder, you know, because the first year I think that we went, Drew Estate was a huge sponsor of TP, right? And so it was when the Big Four pulled out. And so I wonder also, because now, you know, they're back with PCA, right? I wonder if because they're not putting as much money in, you know, what they would have spent in PCA, they were putting it in TP for a while there, that now, you know, that has a factor into the cigar part of it.
Oh, 100%. I mean, Drew Estate.
Specifically.
Drew Estate, you know, through Swisher International, I mean, you got to throw that out there too. I mean, yeah, they spent a lot of money on that.
That first
and now
year, Drew Estate
they're spending money on PCA. Yeah. So, I mean, they're not going to do both.
everything was sponsored by Drew Estate that first year we went. Like the whole after party where they extended and they rented the whole pool. It was like Drew Estate everything. And now it was much smaller just this past year when you went.
Yeah, they were there, but like I don't remember them really
not the same
sponsoring as much.
capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Phillips and King was a big sponsor still, obviously.
The best example I could see of something that didn't work out was Villiger. So Villiger pulled out of the trade show, I think, before anyone else did. And they made the decision that they were going to go full-born into TPE. And they have, like I said, they have products that certainly justified that, right?
Yeah.
Villiger was a big sponsor of the party I was at in 2020. Villiger is no longer a part of TPE. They're back at the trade show. So it didn't work for them.
Right.
And I don't know the specifics with that. Renee's a solid guy. Renee Castaneda is a solid guy. He knows what he's doing. The fact that they kind of didn't work for them said something to me. That here's a company that has a lot of the products that, and I know people will be critical of the Villiger premium products, but don't forget they have mass market products, right? That didn't work for them, is what I'm saying. So they went back to the PCA trade show. It said something to me that they didn't think it was worth it. Even though they had the perfect products in a lot of ways to go sell there. Because, again, their premium business is a smaller part of their business, is what I'm going to say.
Yeah, I mean, then you can talk, though, culture and things like that, right? So TP has that younger vibe, right? Like you saw the girls with, like, scantily clad, like selling all the vape products and stuff like that. So that's what
and all the
a lot
hookah
of those,
tobacco
all the hookah tobaccos, and that's what those convenience stores are trying to, they're appealing to a younger crowd, like with the vape stuff. And Villiger is not that,
So, I got a funny story to tell you. Stace was with me, right? Stace Berkland, right? Brother of mine, right?
Yep.
He was at the first trade show I was at. And if we went to that first trade show, guess what? There were tons of booths that had models in the booths, like in front of their booths, right? I'm talking the premium companies. I'm not talking they had alternative products there too.
Yeah.
That was a part of the show. There would be models. I remember going up to one booth. We signed in with some model, and we're all getting pictures taken with these models and stuff like that.
Was this IPCPR or TP?
This is IPCPR in 2010. Stace will vouch for me on this, right? And then on top of that, they had the models. Like the other thing is the alternative companies work a little differently than the premium companies.
Yeah.
They basically will stand in the aisles and drag you into their booths. That's how it worked, right? It actually was very annoying after a while, particularly because these aren't booths we're going to cover. But I remember Stacey walking past some of these hookah booths and stuff. He could tell you that. That's how it was in 2000. Now, it changed a lot. Once they got those companies out of there, that's when it changed. And then the models were no longer there. But that was a part of the trade show 15 years ago. Very much part of it.
Well, yeah, and that's what TP screams to me, like who's vaping
TP
now?
Kind of was like that. Yeah, TP
like
was.
Who's vaping?
Yeah.
Like your 20-year-olds are vaping, like like 20s to 30s.
Yeah.
I don't want to say under that, but like teens.
The pouches. And pouches are big there too.
Oh,
yeah,
my
like,
son Timmy wants to go, and like to TP. I'm like, no, you're not going.
And
I'm
it's
not paying for you to go.
No, and it's like Party Central and stuff. So I see then like, okay, so you say like a company like Villiger though, like with this legacy, they're not doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the convenience stores knowing what, okay, this is selling, we're trying to appeal to this crowd and get more of these flavored fruity it's not the same product, right? And so but Drew Estate, who has the DJ booth and who like goes crazy at TP, that fits their bill a little bit more. So it is a little bit of marketing on what what pairs well with the product, with those vape products and whatnot. So it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea for the for the cigar, for people who are trying to sell their cigars there.
I saw this comment.
As long as you put this dumb comment up, can I comment on it?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's not what we're talking about. That's not. Yes, they had models in the booths where you get your picture taken.
And that was tasteful, Alan. I liked the Game of Thrones girls.
Also, I'm pretty sure those girls
different.
Those girls, I think, work for either Dupont or Coles of London because it was the same girls in New Orleans and Vegas every year.
And you weren't getting pictures with them unless you were engaged with them with the Game of Thrones products either.
Yeah, they weren't just there to stand around. They were actually handling product and doing presentation.
This is like some hot girl in a mini dress at the front of the booth signing you in, or that's what I'm talking about. This was right.
Yes.
That's not the case. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, Stace is even. Oh, the Heavenly. Stace remembers the Heavenly Cigars girls. Yeah, this is how it was. Yeah. Bahama Mamas, yeah.
Alan said, I never said it was tasteless. Well, okay. Well, the ones that I'm talking about were not very tasteful.
They weren't doing that to get you in the booth. There was a big difference, yeah.
Well, I mean, no offense, Alan, but the way you worded it was kind of like, well, Dupont did it. That's how I read it.
And it was to very specifically promote their Game of Thrones lighters, which are very expensive. That whole collection that they put out that year.
Yeah, this was a very different scenario. And guess what? Were they there this year? No. It was a different. That was a special case scenario, is what I'm looking at.
You're talking about a dime versus a dollar.
You're talking apples and oranges. That's not what we were talking about. What this was. Yeah. Like I said, you had someone in the front of the booth, and like I said, they were really their job was to get you into the booth, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but they still do that at TP. They still have the girls. I mean, maybe not so much in the
They
cigar
walk
side.
around now. They walk the aisles, and then they're like,
they have
come
their
to whatever.
tote bags filled with vape products, and they're like, here, come to, so they are doing that type of stuff at TP.
Yeah.
Still,
every dress is above the knee. Yeah, I mean, it's just a difference.
Or underwear, shorts.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact,
leather 1 year.
As a matter of fact, the girls at Dupont, if I can remember correctly, they were mostly like in bodysuits. They weren't even in like short skirts and stuff. They had like
the
leather
costume. They were in costume.
They were in
like
They were in Game of Thrones costume.
They didn't look like they just left, the Sapphire down the street. You know what I mean?
You go to the Dupont booth, they don't need to do that to make a sale. Okay, that was just kind of like they were just trying to create a little of the experiential thing is what they were doing.
And to be fair, they had the whole throne. They had the whole the game. The throne sword. I don't know why I'm spacing the name, but they had the whole thing. So the idea was that you sit and you have the picture with the girl because you're the king and blah blah blah. Like it was a whole thing. It was a whole display.
In fact, it was funny. Tripp and I got pictures with them. I really didn't want to get the picture with them. I'll be completely honest, because I'm not a Game of Thrones person, but I did, right? I'm not gonna lie. And Les asked me, go get a picture. You gotta get a picture, Coop.
I'm in the same booth. Same booth. I did it.
I got a picture.
I did it for less. I did it for less.
I did it. Yeah, I mean, I didn't need to do it. But believe me, they did to do that to get you in the Dupont booth. Okay. I'm just remembering a couple of booths where they were, and Stace pointed out, where they would just literally, their job was to either get you in the booth or sign you in the booth so you'll stay. Something like they'd serve you coffee. I remember getting coffee. Stace, there was one booth like they were dressed as cowgirls, right? And I remember we're getting coffee and we're just sitting there like, am I eating it? I was eating it up that year. I remember, yeah. I mean, I think there was a company. The name of the company was called Bandolero. By the way, this is before Bandolero.
Not Selected Tobacco.
Not Selected Tobacco. This was it was like a cowboy type company, and there were these like cowgirls that would come in there, and they come in with the Daisy Dukes, and they give you coffee and stuff like that. That's how this was. It was very different. Once that part of the trade show was removed from IPC, that all changed, and that's no longer around.
Jay made a funny comment. Thank God for the Newmans. If Fuente had its own booth, I shudder to think of all the girls Carlito would hire. I'm going to tell him you said that.
No habla inglés.
No, as Jose would say. Jay, no hablo inglés. That's universal code with Jose for I don't want to talk about it. Vince said, 2009, Rocky Patel had a booth at Memphis, and the models were sexy as hell.
Yes.
He had 3 or 4 there. I know someone that has a company for trade shows throughout the company.
I'm telling you, that's what they did. This is how it was 15 years ago. Yes. And this is the year before.
Now you just get Matt Booth with his secret pole in the back of the.
Well, that's something completely different. That's a whole nother level. That's just
you
absurd.
Get pole dancing with Matt Booth.
I remember was it what was the last show in Vegas? It was 24.
Yeah.
Was it the 24 show? Actually, I think it was the 23 show.
No, 24 was Vegas.
No, but before that one, I think it was I'm thinking of something that happened. I think the stripper pole was 23. I think it was that same year.
They wanted the sex swing for 24,
that was 20,
but they couldn't put it up.
Well, no, that wasn't 24. That was a few years before that. But it was the 23 year.
It was 20. It was 22.
Yeah.
It was the year after Matt just had gotten acquired, and he had a booth there.
Yeah, and I remember it was at the same year he was like, yeah, and I also have a glory hole. And I was like, really? He's like, yes. What do you mean? What's wrong? And it's like, really? Yes, of course. It's gonna be nice. And I'm like, oh God.
Yeah, and then he put cigars through it.
And basically, it was a small little Connect 4 thing that he made, and then he'd stick the cigar. And I'm like, oh, all right. You made it sound like you had like a wall in the back. He's like, no. I'm like, thank God. But it's just, that's different. Although I don't want to say too much, but he also he brought some props to TPE 25, and I saw it, and I was a little surprised. I haven't seen it publicly on the market yet, so I don't want to say too much. But yeah, he never disappoints. He has some concepts of some things that he's working on, and whatever your imagination is, double it and make it even more scary, and you're there. Because just when you think you've seen it all, he goes, I'm going to go to the next level. And you're like, oh, okay. But yeah, State said, cowgirls waiting their turn to pole dance. Coop tells the truth. Classless back then.
It was mayhem. I mean, I remember, it was mayhem. I mean, I'm just telling you, it was 2010 was very different. And we were there as buyers that year. I wasn't even there as media that year. So that was my first trade show.
I don't know. It sounds more fun. Maybe they need to bring some of this back.
Coop, do you remember?
No.
Do you remember watching Gilligan's Island?
Yeah.
Do you remember the episode? It's been a while since I've seen it, so just help me along here. But there was an episode when I think it was a Japanese soldier or something came to the island, and they were all like they were all like locked in those little bamboo jails, and he's like talking to Ginger, and his glasses get all foggy, and he's like, "You fogged my glasses," because he's like getting all like, cause she, he's like all like smitten by her and whatever. I could see you being at that show, being like, "Oh man, getting your glasses all fogged up, like getting overwhelmed. Like, who are all these women around me now?" I could totally see you pulling that move.
Lisa wouldn't be too amused.
Lisa would not be happy, but Coop would just be like, "Oh my goodness, what am I doing?" And he'd just be caught off guard.
I had pictures from that show with models, and I had no problem. It was like there was nothing with that.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it was a different trade show back then.
It was a different, sounds like it. Although,
yeah,
I mean,
once the alternative company was kicked out, that's when it changed.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely see like even like they even had like the people in like the mascot costumes, like like the thing with the big head and like like someone is you'd see that like they're running around like. Yeah. Which actually I think like Grab a Leaf had that. They had the guy like running around in like the suit, and I think they were at PCA this year too. And I remember being like, oh, they're here. And the guy was running around in the thing, and I was like, oh. Obviously, it's a lot more at TPE, and again, I think it goes back to like what Nicole said. It's like it makes sense to have that at TPE. I think now at PCA, I think you'd have a lot of people who would be like, I don't know about that. Just the way things are. Yeah. So, makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, let's put it like this. If you were going to ask questions for wrapper binder filler from these girls, you were not going to get an answer that.
Oh, my God. Yeah, there's a lot that could be said.
What about that Mexican San Andreas wrapper?
What's Mexican San Andreas? It's like, oh, okay.
Oh my God, the skirt's made from Mexico.
Wow, that's
it was a different world back then. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So, and for folks on what changed is when things started happening and we started getting lumped in with the legislation with the alternative products, they had to make a break with that. So ultimately they broke with that, and what happened is that affected attendance a great deal afterwards. Like trade shows were a lot less attended after that because there was a big audience that was gone. So these trade shows used to be a lot more full for that reason. So in general, PCA really made a big sacrifice for the industry with that because they were getting a lot of revenue from that.
Right. Right.
So I think they never get credit for that, and I think they deserve credit for that. Trying to protect this part of the industry, they realized it was more important.
Before we forget,
Yeah, we should go back to Stasis first.
I did want to touch on Stace's comment from much earlier, just because I don't want to forget about it. And I know I told him we would hit it. But he asked this question earlier in the show. General Cigar no longer holds a registered Cohiba mark in the United States. Earlier 2025 ruling by the U.S. courts. So why are they allowed to still put out cigars under the brand name? And for what it's worth, I am against Altadis in general using brand names that are clear Cuban iconic names. I wish they would just stop and create their own distinctive brands. Curious your thoughts.
Well, the answer to that is they lost trademark protection in the U.S. for Cohiba, is what happened. So they had, like, Monte Cristo has trademark protection in the U.S. Romeo Julieta has trademark protection in the U.S. Even Partagas, I guess, does, but Cohiba does not. So technically, there is nothing from stopping someone else from using that name right now, is from what I understand. However, now there's a bigger court case that's going to decide. I think the courts are going to have to decide whether they can continue to use that name. And I'm not really sure where that piece is at, but they weren't banned from using it. They just lost the trademark protection that they had.
And he just sent this coming in. Back to my initial question on Cuba. Let me just say I love Rafael, I love AJ, and I really like some of the blends under STG and GC. But as established as these companies are, and as small as the world has gotten with social media, do we really need brands using non-Cuban trademarks for cigar lines who started and are still made in Cuba?
Monte Cristo is still a big name in the U.S.
It is. It is.
It's a big name in the U.S.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I say it all the time when I talk to the casual cigar smokers, the new cigar smokers, the people who are not like us, who like we do this all the time. We smoke a lot of different people. The people who just smoke like the biggest names that they've heard of, right?
Yeah.
Which that's totally okay, because that's a huge part of the market, and that's a good thing. I always get the same names: Monte Cristo, Romeo. I get some Cohiba from time to time, and I those are the three I hear the most. You get Rocky Patel a lot, you get some Fuente, but more often than not, it's Monte Cristo, it's Romeo, it's Cohiba. I hear it all the time.
Well, and especially, oh no, go ahead, go.
I said one of our biggest giveaways was a Cohiba giveaway.
Yeah.
So Monte's a big one, so we do.
I was gonna say up here in New England, it's especially in Massachusetts. The cigar tax is so high, there are not a lot of cigar shops. So there's like this subset of people who will just grab some cigars that are at their local gas station, or like we have a chain up here, Total Wine. They have like a small humidor room, but it's a giant.
Well, we don't. Massachusetts does.
Okay, but in Mass, right? And so,
We're in New Hampshire.
But so with that being said, the biggest names that are in those places are like Altadis brands and things like that. Like you said, like Rocky Patel's huge, like Coraline Fuente's in there.
I'll tell you exactly what you see when you look in there. It's the same.
Yeah,
it's the same
it's
thing.
always the same.
No. Specifically, I'll tell you what you see every single time. You can go into any of those stores. And Total Wine's not really a good example because they have a bigger humidor, so they carry more than.
Well, they have some Perdomo and stuff, but they're definitely not selling anything.
They get Padron, they get
Coraline,
Perdomo, yeah. But like if you go into like a strict convenience store, that's got somewhat of a decent selection, you will see Ashton Classic. Most of the core lineup from General and Altadis, you're going to see Macanudo, you're going to see Punch, you're going to see Hoyt Monterey. You're going to see Romeo. You're going to see Monte Cristo. You're going to see some Cohiba, classic red dot, maybe the blue. You're going to see some Fuente, some Rocky Patel. And then maybe once in a while you'll see like some Perdomo. You might see... You might see like Brick House, or you might see like some Quorum. And that's like the average, like 7 or 8 out of 10 that I walk into. It's exactly the same.
So I was talking to a girl at work, and her husband smokes cigars, and so me asking, well, do you know what he likes? And she's like, I have no idea. I'm just, let me text him. I'm curious now that you ask. And he's like, whatever I can grab at the gas station. Like this is a guy who just doesn't go to lounges. It's not in the same realm of, I guess people, people who are participating even on this podcast right now. Do you know what I mean? There's just a subset of people who just aren't that involved.
That's the majority of the consumer.
Yeah, as a consumer, right? So they're just not that involved.
People like us are the minority.
Yeah, they're not listening to podcasts. They're not going into lounges. They're not. They may be, maybe they only have a few a month, and they're just grabbing it at their local gas station because it's convenient for them. They don't even know the names sometimes of this or the wrapper, binder, filler. They just know, I like a cigar every once in a while. And so, that is, in a nutshell, why those brands are still doing well, because they think
that's why they're all so big.
But these Cuban legacy brands, right, like Cohiba, they know, like, oh well, Cohiba's been around a long time. I'm just gonna grab that one, and thinking it's this. And some people don't even know the difference. Like they think, oh, Cohiba's great, not even realizing there's an embargo and they can't buy it in the United States. They think it's the same.
I have people ask me all the time. I have people
like they don't know
constantly say to me like, oh, you can get the Cubans now, right? And I'm like, no, you
because
still cannot buy them. They just don't realize. They think like we have people tell me all the time they think that you can buy Cuban cigars now. I'm like, no, you cannot buy them here
because they see Cohiba and these brands in the gas. They just assume, and they have no idea because they're just not that educated, nor do they wish to be that educated about it. So, I can see why they still do well. When they're in
most people don't know the inside
places.
baseball.
Yeah,
that's what it comes down to. Yeah.
But they know the name, and that's all they need. They know the name.
I've really seen this since we got a lot of newer cigar smokers coming into the Coop site this year, and I see that more and more now.
They're looking for Romeo and Cohiba and all that stuff,
or traffic on those articles.
Yeah, the traffic of those has increased. Yep. The questions we get are, is this the same cigar that is in Cuba? I've gotten a couple of those.
Yep.
How is it different? So I get the messages and emails on that, or comment on the website on that. So I do see that happen now more. It's not. Look, if you're new to this, you're not gonna know the inside baseball.
No, and it's a good thing though, because you know why? Because some of these, these brands are so easily accessible. Like I said, at the gas station, convenience stores in Massachusetts, because it's like such an anti-smoking state, right? And they don't have a lot of lounges there. People can grab them there. They're trying them. Then maybe, they're getting into the industry that way. And it's kind of like, I don't want to call it like a gateway drug, but it's like a gateway cigar to then learning about the industry if you're interested about it, right? So like, they're not doing us a disservice by still, being there and, those gas stations not carrying a full range of things and people not knowing, because we want more people to participate in the industry, right? So
I'll be honest with you.
It's helping.
The first couple of cigars I ever smoked, that's how I got them. And then it was like I was at Total Wine, and I went into their humidor. And I bought a bunch of cigars there a couple of times. And it wasn't until, like, after all of that, that I walked into Two Guys... back then, it was Two Guys Smoke Shop. Now it's Two Guys Cigars. But when I walked in there for the first time, and I was, like, in a real cigar store. And, walking into a real cigar... And then, of course, everything changed for me, 100%. But... I didn't go into a traditional cigar shop first. I made my way there. And I think a lot of people do that. They pick it up, they get curious. Then they're like, I'm going to go into that cigar store. Then they go in the cigar store. And I think 50% of them might stick with what they like. But then the other 50%, that's where it goes. And then they're like, all right, now there's so much more to explore and learn. And then that's when it really takes off. But yeah, I think that for a lot of people, that's how it starts, because it's quick and easy. You see it, you're like, oh, give this a shot. You're not going out of your way to go into a cigar store, Or
like we don't have a lot of opportunity because we have kids to even go out. We're blessed that my husband is blessed that he has a wife who loves cigars and let him build a lounge in the basement. But there's a lot of people who they can't escape, they can't go out. They have kids, they have other obligations. They just grab a couple, they smoke at home, they smoke on their porch, they smoke. They're just not getting out there to really know. And, what's accessible to them is that, when they're going to get their gas and going to the gas station or picking up something at the liquor store, and that's it.
Yeah. I was in a part of the state of North Carolina a couple of years ago for business, and I'd forgotten my cigars, right? And I get to the hotel, and there's a great fire pit to smoke at. and there's no cigar store for like 35 miles. But there was a Harris Teeter's. I knew Harris Teeter is a supermarket chain that Tinderbox actually supplies cigars to. And I'm like, wow, I could get to the supermarket at like 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I picked up some cigars there. I was like, and it was exactly kind of what you said. It was the tried and true brands. And I remember when I paid for the cigars, and I think I got some Monty Whites, was not great. And I was asked a question about, about these being Cubans. And the person that working there didn't even know that. Yeah. So I said, they're not Cuban,
Well,
And John Carney popped into the show here, and he said they sell well and have amazing distribution. The brands are literally everywhere, like Coke and Pepsi, and that's what it is. It's when you go into any grocery store, you're going to find Coke, Diet Pepsi. You're going to find Sprite. You're going to find it there. And if for whatever reason they don't have it, you're going to be like, what the fuck? They don't have Coke? They don't have Pepsi? It's going to be very weird to you. That's pretty much the same in a cigar shop with those brands. If you walk into a store and they don't carry it, and there are stores that don't. I know this for a fact. They're very far and few between, but even shops that don't even have great relationships with those companies, or they don't want to do, they still have the basics because they know that people are going to come in looking for them. And that's what it is. And, versus, you might have like some craft soda you like. That's the boutique. You got to find those, and because they're not as big, they don't have that same recognition and distribution and money to build that big and just put it everywhere. It's so he's right. I mean, that's part of it. Is just that it's those are names that have been around for so long that everybody knows. And that's why Altadis in general is such big companies, because that's. But
back to Stace's question. Question for a minute. They're not going to change that unless they have to legally, right? Mm-hmm. Because of what it does. So because they have this, they're it seems silly, but unless they're being forced to change the name, they're not gonna change it.
And it's doing very well for them. Yeah. The brand. So Rubicon has been a huge hit down in Charlotte. That under $10, and people gravitated to that cigar because it's for the price. I mean, I'm not saying it was the best cigar in the world, but there was something with that name Cohiba on it for $10. That would not have worked if it was. I'm just trying to think of another brand under General that it wouldn't work with another brand name, is what I'm saying.
Now, I have often wondered, and I've asked people this question, the hypothetical game. I think you know where I'm going with this. In a magical world, it changed tomorrow. Then what? And I've had retailers tell me, I'll bring Habanos in, but I'm not going to guarantee them. They're going to be on a separate shelf, a separate part of the store, and we'll sell them, but we're not guaranteeing them.
Well, I'm sure that's going to, their agreement with Habanos or whoever's distributing that's going to tell the terms of that. So if they are,
and that's true too. But
you're gonna have to,
That's like the vibe I get from retailers.
If you're an authorized retail, that's what I'm saying. It's so that's gonna depend on the terms of that.
And that's a good point too, because
you're probably not gonna get them is the answer. Yeah, you're probably not gonna get them if you're gonna agree to that.
So if Habanos tomorrow was available in the United States, they're going to come into your store the way some of the companies like Davidoff and those companies do, where they're going to be like, we want our stuff presented a certain way, especially Cohiba. They're going to want Cohiba treated the same, if not better, than Davidoff, White Label, cigars like that. They're going to be like, you're going to have a display. It's going to be the satin gloves. Like you see in Europe, I mean, they got the gloves that they pick the cigar, like that's what they're gonna want, because as much as we can get into the Cuban cigar discussion, when you look at stores outside of the U.S. that like Casa del Habano, there's a certain prestige of which those cigars are presented, and they are gonna have a long list of demands. Of course they are, but I would say that they're probably going to be met with a lot more skepticism from American retailers than they probably do outside of the U.S. because American retailers predominantly sell everyone else's cigars, and they've been doing so for a long time, and they know what they're getting with those. With Cubans, I mean, you're going to have a lot of people going to be antsy to get them because they want it in the store because they're going to want to bring people in. But there's going to be people who do approach it a certain way with some skepticism. I know for a fact several larger retailers who will bring it in, but they're going to want to really talk it over. And then you're going to have stores that are going to be like, whatever you want. I just want it in my store because people are going to come get it.
It's not going to happen.
But it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
But Habanos has they can't supply everybody as it is. So they're going to have the upper hand here. There's just no way around that. So you're if you want to bring it, if you want to get this product, you're going to have to agree to the terms that to be an authorized retailer. It's probably be an appointed. I imagine it'll be an appointed merchant model too.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, and
but like Eddie said, there wouldn't be enough product, and they couldn't supply the market. It's true.
I'm reading this fact. The U.S. market consumes more premium cigars per year than Cuba can currently produce total. So
I honestly think the only I think the only way they could,
they'd have to give up Asia.
The thing is they would need a lot more infrastructure, and they would need a lot more investment in their cigar manufacturing and all that. If they were to come to the U.S., this is all true, but I think at the same time they would know, they know this challenge, and then they're going to know, if we're going to do this, we're going to need to make some serious upgrades to be able to, and even then, I mean, it's not even a guarantee, and it would take a long time. So there's a lot that would need to happen.
The other piece of it is that they've already raised their pricing in recent years, and it would only inflate more. And I think most consumers would say, well, why am I going to, buy a Cuban for over $100 a stick when I can get a perfectly good Padron for a fraction?
The real cigar smokers are but you're going to have a lot of people who are just be like, I don't care about that.
No, but if
they'll learn, but...
Yeah, but if they're a wishy-washy person who's like, oh, well, I don't smoke, but Cubans, they're not going to spend over $100 on their first cigar unless they're someone who's really into smoking cigars. Do you know what I mean? I just don't think.
True, but the problem with Cubans is there's still a lot of people who have that itch, Cuban, Cuban, Cuban.
It is. I mean,
that's the problem. You have the people who are oh, it's $100, but that's Cuban. It's
I saw it in Dubai. I mean, where there's plenty of disposable income, they'll pay it.
And think of all the fake market of Cubans would go even worse. There's already this huge, problem that plagues places that have Cubans is that there's counterfeit ones because of the price of them, right? And so I don't know. I just don't think it's going to happen.
No.
So.
Even if the embargo ended, it's not like they could be like, okay, great, we can go to the U.S. No. It wouldn't just come to the U.S. It would be we can go, but
no. And China owns such a large part of Habanos
we don't have the infrastructure.
I just don't think. Why would they then want to come into this market when they do so well? And I said, China owns it. It would take so
long to set up distribution in this country. They'd have to establish a business entity. There's no signs of the embargo changing, and even after that, it's going to take several years.
It would take a long time.
I'm not going to. I will be retired. We will not see the embargo end on Cubans in the U.S. in my tenure in the cigar industry. It's a long, long way off. This came up. Actually, it's funny. That part came up on KMA about, and I said, we're not seeing the end of there's no signs of the embargo ending, whatsoever, and it's just not going to happen. That's not correct, but. The Asian market's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
There's no way. There's no way. There's no way.
Yeah.
I've talked to people who can in the Asian market. Yeah.
Well,
that's the reason why they set the Hong Kong price. Cubans set the price of a Hong Kong cigar. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not true.
Yeah, it's the same old discussion that comes up time and time again. And it's oh yeah, that's that whole. And I feel like for the real cigar smokers, it's that thing that it's that thing out in the yard that it's there, but no one really gives a shit about. It's Cubans, yeah, they're around. I mean,
there's so many companies that export to Asia, and there's lines that there are companies you wouldn't believe they're selling cigars in Asia. I'll give you one. Viaje sells a ton of cigars in Asia.
Do they?
Oh yeah, I've had some of these. Andre's given me at trade shows when he used to go cigars that were sold in Asia. I mean, there's a big part. PDR did a lot of business there too, from what I think they still do. So there's a lot of companies that, and I saw Eddie in there. I'm sure he can vouch for. There's a big market there.
Yeah, Eddie knows. Eddie knows what's going on over there.
One of my biggest disappointments was when I got sepsis. Right before I got sepsis, I was supposed to go to Hong Kong, and the trip fell through because I got sick. But I had everything lined up for a couple of weeks there. So
I was watching something the other day. I can't remember what show it was, but it was Landman. Because I actually paid attention for a minute. And one of the characters was saying, he was getting shit on for smoking a cigarette or something. And his answer was like, look at all the Asians. And all of them smoke in Asia. And all of them are perfectly healthy.
And
lung cancer is not a leading anything in Asia.
And they live to be like 85 years old.
Yeah. And they all smoke all the time. He goes, this is not killing anyone.
Yeah, it's the processed sugars that we have.
Uh-huh. I mean, I just remember Jose was planning my itinerary when I was going over there. That's how big it was. Yeah.
To go to
and it was
Asia.
He knows that he knew that market pretty well.
Yeah.
And this is when he was still with EPC at the time when this happened, and he was planning my trip with me basically to do that. So so it's big. Yeah, it's big market.
Because they all smoke.
And they all smoke.
And they're not getting lung cancer.
Well, the thing with like China and like a lot of the countries over there is they all smoke, but they all really like luxury. And again, these time and time again have, as Tony Soprano would say, in time immemorial, have always been a sign of luxury. So they like to smoke and they like luxury. So they want to smoke in luxury. And so, of course, I mean, it's going to be huge over there. And that's great. That's a whole market of revenue that people can use to their advantage.
My first cousin, who I'm very close with, he married a Vietnamese woman. And his words to me, because he's made a couple of trips over to Vietnam, and he's like, you got to go. He said cigar smoking is catching on big over there. He really couldn't comment on how easy it is to smoke or anything like that, but he just said it is becoming much more of a cultural thing in Vietnam right now, especially as that country gets more affluent,
Well, and Eddie said right here, Asia is just as big as the U.S. for Davidoff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he would know. Eddie would know that.
Yep.
And, Eddie knows that market very, very well.
He also knows Davidoff. I mean, he worked for Davidoff.
Yeah, I'm just saying that is not. Yeah. Do not underestimate the Asian market. Yep.
Okay, John has a good point. They might not report.
They also don't report half of the deaths. Yeah, that's true. It's easy to have a great health record when the government controls the entire narrative of people and distribution of information. Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
No, but I'm a firm believer that it's our food that kills more. And our all the other stuff that is more likely to kill us.
Yeah.
As a society.
One of the things I wanted to make sure that I brought up before we got to the end of the show was our friends at Perdomo Cigars to help make this show happen. Perdomo Cigars featuring the 30th anniversary Sun-Grown Epicure, our 2024 cigar of the year. Perdomo Cigars stand for quality, tradition, and excellence. And Perdomo is another one of those companies who I know that they've been trying to make progress overseas. Like in Europe.
They have.
I don't know about Asia, but I know Europe. They're over there.
They're in Asia. They were in Dubai. They were at the trade show in Dubai. It's funny. Their Perdomo Habano is called Perdomo Nicaragua over there.
Because they can't use Habano.
And I saw that in Italy as well. And like I said, they have a lot of distribution. I mean, when I was at the Perdomo factory, we were with folks from like Mozambique. Czechoslovakia. There's a lot. They are a global company, Perdomo. Very much a global company. And I know they do a lot in Italy. Obviously, I think Toscano may be their distributor in Italy. I could be wrong on that. But yeah, they do a lot of. Perdomo was easy to find in Italy. I can tell you that.
Eddie said Vietnam is growing fast and it's very welcoming to cigar
Yeah,
culture.
that's what my cousin felt. It was very welcoming. He said you need to go there. He was talking about some lounges that he had gone past. He's I would say he's an occasional cigar smoker, namely when I'm around.
He also added they were my best import when I lived in Asia.
Oh, yeah. He was like, you have to go to Vietnam. He was telling just for the cigars. He was telling me to do this.
And I believe Eddie worked for Eddie. When you were in Asia, at least most of the time, but you were in Thailand, right? So I think he was in. Was he in? I think he was in Thailand, if I remember correctly. Eddie Garrett Perdomo.
Perdomo was in Asia, I believe, too. They're in Australia, I know that, and that's a tough market.
Eddie Garrett, they have the most impressive Club Habano cigar lounge in downtown Saigon, Epic Lounge.
Yeah, he was. My cousin Michael was absolutely, he was emphatic about this to me.
Yeah.
I don't think I can get convince my wife to go, unfortunately. But
that's right. I had my own place in Thailand, and I was. That's right. I couldn't remember exactly, but yes.
But listen, the Asian market is enormous. Look at all the people that are there. Yeah, it is amazing. And going to not to turn it all back to Dubai, but Dubai is very much a melting pot city. People come from all people have located from all over the world. A lot of the big Asian population there too. They love their cigars. So.
Sorry, I was reading these comments.
Actually, we have a guy on our team from Australia.
That's right, Dave Burke.
Believe me, he can't. Poor guy. Not only that, he has to pay customs fees when he orders cigars from overseas. So it's crazy.
Almost as bad as Canada.
I know. Canada is
worse. It's worse. Yeah, they open up the packages they have to open the package. I have to when I send them stuff, I have to disclose it. I'm allowed to send them cigars. It's not illegal to send them cigars, but I have to disclose it. I can't hide the fact that it's cigars.
Jay said, "Wait until people in India start smoking premium cigars. Asia is a huge growing market."
They already do.
Yeah.
They already are. Yeah. I mean, we had a bunch of people in Dubai from our company from India, so they were very interested in going to cigar places in Dubai.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And there's a couple companies already dabbling with the Indian tobacco. So they're growing tobacco in India. A few companies have started to do it now.
Yep. I have heard that actually.
Yeah. I think there's two I can think of. I want to say one of them Sanj Patel. The other one maybe I want to say Cavalier may have used it already.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but I do feel like we smoked something with Indian tobacco in it.
Yeah.
From the trade show.
Yeah, I feel like you're right. I feel like I remember something. Coop, was there anything that we didn't bring up that you wanted to bring up tonight on the show specifically?
I'm thinking it was we brought up obviously the BCA was the big story.
Yep.
There, I mean we can get into a bunch of the wrapper binder filler stuff, but in general, I think we hit the big points tonight.
Okay. Yeah, I was just looking at the time, and I know we're probably going to wrap up soon, but I just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything pressing that we were going to bring up. Yeah, we wrap around the stuff we can always get to the next time. That stuff's kind of always there. So that's easy. So I think we'll just save that. But yeah, I think that's gonna be it for our show tonight, guys. So obviously, Coop, thanks for being here with us tonight. We appreciate it. And everyone listening and watching at home, thank you for hanging out with us and having a cigar with us and having a great time. Don't forget to like and subscribe everywhere you get your podcast to Smoking Tobacco. And as always, head to smokingtobacco.com for more news, reviews, and updates from the cigar industry. We will see you Wednesday night on the Smoking Tobacco Show. And for now, we say good night. Take care. And happy